Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and I hope that you all must be doing great. So let's start with the analysis video for 10th of August 2023. So the Home Minister appeals for peace in Manipur and he backs the Chief Minister of the state. But again, just appealing for the peace is not going to solve the situation or change it at the ground level. The center does not intend to make demographic changes in Manipur. Ethnic violence is shameful, but politicizing it is even more shameful. So this is what he had to say in the parliament. And then apart from this, we're having all like political news. So we just have to look at them in a very objective manner and try to find out the concept behind that. So no police operations without presence of central forces. The Home Minister assures the Kuki Zoo team. So we need tribal unity for fight. We need tribal unity to fight for survival amid the atrocities. So yesterday, as we saw, it was the National Tribals Day. So in that context, again, International Day of World's Indigenous People and Jharkhand Tribal Festival. You can just see a picture from there. The CM of Jharkhand is celebrating it with the JMM chief. So again, objectively, कल हमने बात करी थी contributions of tribals. Specifically, आप trace करोगे from the freedom struggle, lesser known tribals, their contribution becomes important, and again, current context में the traditional practices, how they are important in conservation of the environment and even from the perspective of economics. So the GI tags or their cultural heritage, the products that they make, how they can even act. Obviously they are something unique which can obviously even have a global attraction. So these are a few dimensions which can be explored by you. So you can think in this direction. Then Chandrayaan 3. So orbit reduction maneuver of it has been performed successfully. So far it has been successful. And soft landing on the south polar region of the moon, it will be on 23rd of August. So this is a little update, but before we have already analyzed this thing that why the south pole of moon is important and how difficult it is compared to the other. You can like compare the situation with the equatorial region of moon. So while landing on the south polar is it's a task in itself. So this we've already seen. And why are we trying to explore? Why do we want to explore the south pole? Like what benefits does it offers or promises? So change the state's name to Keralam. So yeah, changing the name of state of Kerala to Keralam. Assembly resolution urges the center. So the Kerala Assembly, it unanimously passed one of the resolutions which was urging the center to officially change the name of the state of Kerala to Keralam. So again, इसके पीछे मतलब अगर किसी स्टेट को अपना नेम चेंज करना है तो उसके पीछे क्या प्रोसेस है, दैट इज important thing for us to understand. So state assembly resolution pass करती है. Now you need to know कि कौन सी majority से it is passed. So assembly it sought an amendment to the constitution. So constitutional amendment क्या इसको consider किया जाता है नहीं किया जाता when a name of a state is changed. And apart from this, the resolution was presented in the state assembly. So Keralam, it is the accepted and common usage in Malayalam, and state is generally referred to as Kerala in the official records, especially those in English. So first schedule of the constitution, it also specifies name of the state as Kerala. So this is another important thing. So name of our state is Keralam in Malayalam language states they were formed based on the language. So it was formed in 1956. So amendment under Article 3 would be required if the name has to be changed. So Article 3 deals with formation of new states, alteration of the areas, boundaries, names of the existing states. Now you need to find out whether this would be considered as the amendment of constitution or not. So can SMRs help India achieve net zero target or not? So what are these small nuclear modular reactors and what differentiates them from the conventional nuclear power plants, how they are different, and how can they contribute to decarbonization? How will they affect India's demand for and the use of uranium? And what are then the legal and the regulatory changes do they entail? So what would be the requirement in terms of changing the regulatory setup? So here you can see large are the conventional reactors. It is somewhere around 700 plus megawatts. Small modular reactors would be having a generation capacity of 300 megawatts. And then there are micro reactors up to 10 megawatts. So this is one basis of difference between them. So the world's quest to decarbonize itself, that is guided among other things. So that is obviously by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals number 7 to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. So when we talk about the entire world, so हम आज के टाइम में भी 82% dependent है fossil fuels पे for generation of energy supplies. So obviously decarbonization becomes very critical and important, and recent uptick in the coal consumption in Europe despite the increase in the solar and wind power. मतलब coal का consumption it is still increasing Europe में, India में भी, and this is at a time जब हम ये भी देख रहे हैं कि simultaneously renewable energy capacity is also being increased upon. So it is suggesting कि 24/7 low carbon electricity resources they become critical to ensure कि जो deep decarbonization है power generation में, along with the grid stability maintain करना important है, energy security maintain करना important है. So small modular reactors, this is also one of the types of nuclear reactors. So वो कैसे important role play कर सकते हैं in the context of India. So challenges क्या है decarbonization को लेके? So transition सबसे बड़ा challenge है when we talk about transition from the coal-fired power plants to clean energy, that poses the challenge. क्योंकि जब आप ग्रीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन की बात कर रहे हो तो अगेन जैसे मैंने अभी बोला एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी मेंटेन करना इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो वी कांट कॉम्प्रोमाइज विद एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी व्हाइल इंश्योरिंग द ग्रीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन. So both these things needs to be taken into account simultaneously. Apart from that, in the decarbonized electricity systems with a significant share of the renewable energy, addition of at least one firm power generating technology, it can improve the grid reliability and reduce the cost also. But initially, obviously, it amounts to large investments. So even according to the International Energy Agency, जो demand है for the critical minerals. So critical minerals, कुछ दिन पहले we were talking about them. So even herein their role become very important. So critical minerals like lithium, nickel, cobalt, rare earth elements, they are required for the clean energy production technologies. So their demand is going to increase by up to 3.5 times by 2030. So again, यहाँ पे भी demand would be increasing. So how are we going to ensure that the supply remains adequate? So इसमें भी we face global challenges in terms of large capital investments which are required, and then environmental and the social impacts of developing several new mines and plants in countries like China, Indonesia, Africa, South America. Then apart from that, what are the issues with the nuclear power? So coming to nuclear power, so these nuclear power plants, they generate around 10% of the world's electricity right now. And this helps in avoiding around 180 billion cubic meters of natural gas demand and 1.5 billion tons of CO2 emissions every single year. So these nuclear power plants, they are efficient users of the land and their grid integration cost, even that is lower. And जो conventional nuclear power plants है, they have generally suffered from time and the cost overruns. So at the same time, we also have certain challenges even in the existingly functional nuclear power plants. So as an alternative, जो several other countries हैं, they are developing these small modular reactors, which are the nuclear reactors with a maximum capacity of 300 megawatts to complement these conventional nuclear power plants. तो जो small nuclear reactors हैं, conventionally जो बड़े nuclear power plants हैं, उनको complement करने में बहुत important role play करते हैं. We can say कि they would be acting like a catalyst. So advantages क्या है small modular reactors के? So these are designed in such a way which has a smaller core damage frequency, and that is basically जो हम core damage frequency की बात कर रहे हैं तो उसका मतलब ये होता है कि likelihood that an accident will damage the nuclear fuel. So वो जो frequency है वो बहुत कम होती है in these small modular reactors. And the source term है, that is a measure of the radioactive contamination compared to the conventional nuclear power plants, even that is also lower. So they also include enhanced seismic isolation for more safety. They are much more safer. उनका design simple होता है, and there are several passive safety features also which forms a part of it. And then they have lower potential for release of uncontrolled release of the radioactive material. So environmentally also they are not so dangerous अगर कोई disaster भी होता है तो compared to the conventional ones. Then and most of these land-based small modular reactors designs, it requires low enriched uranium. So this can be supplied by all the countries that possess uranium mines and facilities. For such enrichment, the recipient facility, it is operating according to the international standards. So matlab ki they require low enriched uranium, so even that helps. And जिनका design है, they would be able to operate for more than 40 years. So levelized cost of electricity is $60 to $90 per megawatt hour. And this would be falling as we go forward. So cost decline is another benefit of these small modular reactors. So what is the need for an efficient regulatory regime? So now talking about the regulatory regime, so an efficient regulatory regime comparable to that in the civil aviation sector, which has more stringent safety requirements. So it is important कि if these SMRs, they are to play a meaningful role in decarbonization the power sector, so even a regulatory role needs to be very meaningful. So it can be achieved if all the countries they're accepting or they accept nuclear energy direct their respective regulators to cooperate amongst themselves and with the International Atomic Energy Agency to harmonize regulatory requirements. So how can they be integrated with the national grid? Is not so important. Then what are the legal and the regulatory changes which are required? So Atomic Energy Act hai, this needs to be amended to allow the private sector to set up these SMRs. And again, जब हम उनकी safety, security, safeguards, control of the nuclear fuels, radioactive waste, so that needs to continue to lie with the government of India. And apart from this, government, it will also have to enact a law to create independent, empowered regulatory board, which has the expertise and capacity to oversee every stage of nuclear power generation cycle. And then we have Department of Atomic Energy that must improve the public perception of the nuclear power in India by better disseminating comprehensive environmental and public health data. So awareness generation needs to be focused as well. And here you can see the entire thing has been explained via this diagram. So this steam line, this one, and feed water line. So this is the SMR that we were talking about. So Supreme Court says that Jammu and Kashmir Constitution, it limited executive powers of the Union of India. Because obviously this was Article 370 facilitated a special structure in Jammu and Kashmir state back then. So was it necessary to amend the Indian Constitution to recognize some other constitution? And was it necessary to impose fetters on the power of the parliament? So again, इवन इन दिस आर्टिकल कल भी हमने प्रॉपर डिस्कशन देखा था, उसको समझने की कोशिश करी थी कि सीजीआई ने या जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बेंच है सुप्रीम कोर्ट की क्या क्वेश्चंस रेज किए, एंड अगेन क्या ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल हैं, उनमें से कौन सा चूज करना चाहिए. सो दीज डेलिबरेशंस एंड डिस्कशंस दे आर स्टिल ऑनगोइंग, सो दैट्स देयर एंड यू कैन जस्ट गो थ्रू इट क्विकली. जो प्रॉपर डिस्कशन था वो हम कल कर चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. सो फाइनल वर्डिक्ट इज अवेटेड, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी मच मोर इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर अस. So we are seeing कि food inflation. So again यहाँ पे government का क्या important role होता है, तो one of the steps which government can take is releasing the food grain in the open market sale. तो again simply मतलब directly increasing the supply of the food grains in the market so that उनके prices थोड़े कम हो जाए. But again इसके भी कुछ अपने challenges and limitations है, because this can't be done over a longer time period because the supply is limited. And again, then we also need to take into account the buffer stock. So we need to maintain that as well. So Chinese economy tips into deflation. So inflation, disinflation, deflation. You need to be clear with the meaning. So CPI dropped 0.3% in China in the month of July. Even CPI, that has also declined. The producer price index also declines. So China's consumer sector, it fell into deflation, and the factory gate prices, they extended declines. As the world's second largest economy, it struggled to revive demand, and pressure mounted for the Beijing to release more policy stimulus. So, and when we are talking about the recovery after the impact of the COVID-19, so we are seeing that China is still struggling to come out of it strongly. So that does not send a good signal globally. Coming to Financial Express newspaper. So let's see what is the important and some different topics herein. Data bill, we've already discussed this a lot. Government is going to consult the industry on the transition time that is required. So we expect to soon implement the provisions of this bill. Whatever discussions we have had with the industry so far, they are ready to comply with this new legislation. So this is one part, like in the context of the industry. But again, जब हम बात करते हैं concerns क्या है, changed provisions क्या है, and पहले वाले draft से how it is different, and then again what changes are still required as per the concerns that we have. So government, it pledges to arrest the food inflation. मतलब food inflation को कम करने के लिए it has taken a pledge. So FCI is going to sell extra 5 million ton of wheat and 2.5 million tons of rice, and easing the price pressure. So you can see that CPI food is on an upside. Vegetables, here you can see how volatile it is, that there is so much of downfall and then again it is increasing sharply. And cereal inflation remains at 12.7. So right now this is one of the major concerns in the context of the food inflation in India. Then space sector, again, a very important topic for the general studies paper means. So it is poised for FDI lift off. So FDI is going to be allowed in the entire value chains, including the vehicle operations. So approval route that Indian government, it is considering that there needs to be greater participation in the private sector in the space sector. And it is planning to allow FDI across entire space value chains. So India's current limited private sector involvement is there in the space activities, and the goal is to increase space economy to $50 billion by 2025. So private sector's increasing role globally in the space economy has been highlighted. So जो इंडिया की new space policy है that aims to establish independent private players in the Indian space sector. So their presence is important, but again, their independence is also important at the same time. So this is one aspect. Now, when we are talking about the new space policy, or obviously other provisions, they also become important. India's global positioning in the space sector, and yeah, that's important. Rice prices soars to highest in Asia since 2008 on rising threats to supply. So you can see this is not just a problem limited to India. At the global level, we are seeing serial inflation, and again, then it would be having a negative impact even on the growth rate as well. So neighboring countries से अगर हम बात करें, trade in rupees that gains pace, एंड कल भी हमने इसके बारे में डिटेल में बात करी थी कि चैलेंजेस क्या है इन टर्म्स ऑफ, अगेन एज एन एग्जांपल हमने समझा था कि इंडिया एंड रशिया के बीच में क्या कंसर्न्स अराइज हुए विच टाइम आफ्टर वी सॉ की यूएसए ने रशिया के ऊपर सैंक्शंस लगा दिए, एंड उसके बाद थोड़ा सा वी सॉ की रशिया और इंडिया के बीच में जो ट्रेड हुआ उसको पेमेंट्स के टर्म्स में रुपी वाज एक्सेप्टेड बाय चाइना, बट अगेन क्या कंसर्न्स अराइज हुए ग्लोबली, उसको कैसे हम सॉल्व कर सकते हैं, तो हमने उसके बारे में भी बात करी थी। यहाँ पे स्पेसिफिकली इंडियन नेबर्स के साथ बात करें तो श्रीलंका, इट हैज इंक्लूडेड इंडियन रुपी इन द लिस्ट ऑफ डेजिग्नेटेड फॉरेन करेंसीज। बांग्लादेश इज कमिंग फॉरवर्ड, सिग्निफिकेंट पार्ट ऑफ जो ट्रेड है नेपाल के साथ, दैट इज ऑल्सो बीइंग कैरिड आउट इन द इंडियन करेंसी। एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस रशिया की हमने बात करी थी, एंड ग्लोबल लेवल पे अपार्ट फ्रॉम आवर नेबरिंग कंट्रीज वी आर आल्सो ट्राइंग कि ग्लोबल एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ रुपी इंक्रीजेस फर्दर, so that is going to be a major boost even to the financial stability of India as well. Already the system is stable enough, we are resilient, we are strong, the growth momentum goes forward strongly, but again it can help in strengthening it further. So the standing committee here on economic statistics, it has been renamed. So firstly, जो reforms required है Indian statistical system में, that is very important topic. So standing committees के again हमने कल फिर बात करी थी, कल we talked about कि why referring the referral of bills to the standing committee, that is important. Standing committees का important role कैसे है, and हाउ डू दे फंक्शन, उनके मेंबर्स कैसे सिलेक्ट किए जाते हैं, टाइप्स ऑफ स्टैंडिंग कमेटी क्या होती है, सो ये हमने कल डिटेल में डिस्कस किया था. So the committee, it will advise the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation on all the surveys. And this Standing Committee on Economic Statistics, it has been renamed as the Standing Committee on Statistics. So that's the update. So there is going to be a mandatory energy code for the residential buildings, and codes, they are being revised to move beyond just green building. And these will now also look into embedded carbon, net zero, and sustainable buildings. So this is going to play a very important role going forward in terms of meeting our net zero target. So low income group buoyant about India's economy. So how Credit India, Home Credit India, Home Credit India, which is a part of the global consumer finance provider, Home Credit Group, it has said that sentiments जो हैं amongst the low income population, urban or semi-urban areas में, they are quite buoyant about the country's economy. So local level पे जो sentiment है specifically economy में जब हम बात करते हैं, कंज्यूमर कॉन्फिडेंस की हम बात करते हैं तो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है. So India succeeds in reducing the emissions rate by 33%. That's huge. So India's greenhouse gases emissions rate dropped by faster than expected 33% in 14 years. As we're seeing कि renewable energy generation है जो that is increasing, forest cover भी increase हुआ है. So India is on the way to meet commitment to the United Nations Convention on Climate Change to reduce the emissions intensity by 45% from the 2005 levels by 2030. So I hope that we might be able to, achieve it before the target year of 2030, because 33% हम already achieve कर चुके हैं. Rest 12% is also left, and still we have around 7 years, we can say. So India's rate of emissions intensity, that is the total amount of greenhouse gases emissions जो हैं, that is emitted for every unit increase of the GDP, that has fallen by 33% from 2005 levels. Coming to Indian Express newspaper now. So again, let's see the different topics that we have not taken up so far. तो मेगा फूड पार्क्स इन बारी बेसिकली यहाँ पे जो हमारे लिए इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक है दैट इज द फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री एंड अगेन मेगा फूड पार्क्स हाउ दे प्ले इम्पोर्टेंट रोल एंड इंडिया की जो फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री है करंट व्हाट इज द सिचुएशन व्हाट इज the position right now and history में you can like go into the background, you can trace how it has evolved, what are the challenges और क्या किया जाना चाहिए and again इसका क्या contribution है in terms of economy, social growth and again obviously stability of the society also. So World Biofuel Day, ethanol fueling the greener future. So ethanol's evolution, alcohol to biofuel, showcases that there is immense potential as a renewable resource, revolutionizing multiple industries. So ethanol's जो oxygen rich properties हैं, that helps the engines burn fuel more efficiently, leading to lower carbon monoxide emissions and a cleaner exhaust. So that's how you can like everybody knows about ethanol ke benefits kya hote, but again when you write with such minute details, so that's how your answer becomes different. So its oxygen rich properties helps in clean burning of the fuel or efficient burning of the fuel, जिसकी वजह से emissions कम होते हैं. सो अगेन ये जो टॉपिक है ऐसे में भी आ सकता है, हाउएवर उसमें थोड़ा और ब्रॉडर टॉपिक आ सकता है, बट बायोफ्यूल्स फ्यूलिंग इंडियाज 21st सेंचुरी ग्रोथ, it's an important topic. So then you can also like talk about कि क्या initiatives इंडिया में लिए गए हैं to promote ethanol blending also and ethanol के again economic terms में भी what are going to be the benefits to the sugarcane farmers also. So you need to connect it in a diverse manner. Then ethanol के ऊपर obviously proper like we have industries, so focused on providing sustainable energy solutions. Industrial growth में क्या important role रहा है. So seeds for growth की अगर हम बात करें, new technologies that offer significant advantages for sustainable agriculture. So new technologies और उनका role in terms of promoting sustainable agricultural practice, क्या क्या role हो सकते हैं. So herein, let's see what are going to be the different roles of the modern technology. So even as India, it has achieved food security, obviously we have achieved, and with the production of food grains, which is reaching 330 MMT, जो demand है core cereals की pulses, oilseeds, vegetables, that is still not fully met despite being a food security. Like despite having food security, so they are not affordable for large part of the population, which leads to high proportion of under or malnourished population, and obviously uski wajah se child wasting is at 19%. So we need to close this gap between potential and achievable productivity in most of the grain crops and vegetables. And again, cost of production कम करने पे focus होना चाहिए, promote करनी चाहिए cultivation, consumption of nutritionally rich crops like millets. We can focus on quality of produce. So it's imperative key focus, it needs to be there on ensuring availability of quality seeds, maximizing the performance value of every seed. So quality seeds की availability सबसे पहले है, because that is the first step जब हम बात करते हैं cultivation of nutritious food crops, because obviously then only it would be reaching to the people. So quality seeds become important. So India की जो seed industry है, it was built on strong foundation 1960s में, which established the National Seeds Corporation, and further this boosted with enabling policies, high regulatory support आया from late 1980s, and introduction of then Protection of the Plant Varieties Farmers Rights Act 2001 में लाया गया. There was release of then BT cotton hybrids for the commercial cultivation 2002 में. So these were important milestones towards the era of a technology driven seed sector. So हमने एक्ट्स की बात करी, नेशनल सीड कॉर्पोरेशन की बात करी, हमने बीटी कॉटन की बात करी. And apart from this, जो focus है seed industry का, it should also be to promote the varieties and technologies to combat the serious threats that is posed by climate change. So nutrient richness की अगर हम बात करें, तो hardy and grown in a short cycle, millets obviously they don't require so much time to get mature compared to other crops. So short cycle hai, and they're well suited for the sustainable agriculture also. So India is a global leader जब आप millet production की बात करते हैं, and obviously they are going to play important role because they are the climate resilient crops, also nutritionally rich, economically farmers की income भी double करने में बहुत help कर सकते हैं. So ये तीन major benefits हैं when we're talking about promotion of millets cultivation. And nutritional security obviously वो तो address होगी, advancements in seed technology that can maximize availability and quality of seeds. So जो cost of inputs हैं like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, besides land, labor, water जो है, these are major determinants of the profitability in the agriculture. So cost of seed is typically, it comprises of 3 to 6% of the total cost of production. And it can even lead up to a 15 to 20% yield advantage over and above the genetic potential that we have. So R&D efforts of the public and private sectors that can complement each other in developing environment-friendly, better performing seeds at the affordable cost. So again, जब हम technologies की बात करते हैं, so it comprises of genetic manipulation in variety of developments, priming or physiological advancement protocols, film coating, pelleting with or without active formulations, seed treatments हैं with biologicals or chemical pesticides having the contact or systemic mode of action. Then we have biostimulants. So ये different types of technology हैं जो exist करती हैं. Coming to Hindustan Times, so let's see if we have left something out so far. Digital bill की काफी चर्चा हम already कर चुके हैं. Then from the perspective of map, तो Mediterranean region के बारे में you need to have clarity. Different seas जो हैं, straits exist करते हैं, oceans, bordering countries. General map based questions आते ही आते हैं prelims में. So this we've already seen कि constitution of Jammu and Kashmir that cannot limit the Indian constitution. This is what Supreme Court has said. So Article 370 pe hearing has been going on. So it says कि you may call it Jammu and Kashmir constitution, but what was adopted 1957 में, it was the Indian constitution with certain exceptions and modifications. So constitution of Jammu and Kashmir Indian constitution पे कोई limitations impose नहीं कर सकता है. So powers and provisions of Constitution of India that cannot be circumscribed by the erstwhile Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, and stressing कि Indian Constitution is the only constitution for the entirety of the country, including Jammu and Kashmir के लिए भी, मतलब Jammu and Kashmir को constitution supersede नहीं करता Indian Constitution को, it is the other way around. So it was acceded in 1947, five-judge bench of along with the CJI pointed out there was no express fetters on the powers of Indian Constitution, though Jammu and Kashmir का जो constitution है rested residuary powers with the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly. मतलब एक unique arrangement form किया गया था. So this was one part of it. So Bangladesh maybe polls are going to happen, elections going to happen, and we are seeing people they are on roads protesting because of increased cost of living. So even in Pakistan, we saw elections have been announced there. Basically, elections are going to happen in Pakistan as well. Here you can see Pakistan Parliament to dissolve for polls. So Typhoon Khanun, it barrels towards Japan and South Korea. So naming of cyclones or typhoons, आप इसके बारे में सर्च कर सकते हो. And इसके अलावा obviously climatic conditions which leads to the formation of cyclones or typhoons. So that's important. So Times of India, this is going to the last newspaper of the day. So let's see. I think we can directly move on to, okay, here we have lethal weapon boost to G20 security. So Delhi police is procuring Russian Dragunov sniper rifle. So that's how it looks, to deploy marksmen at key locations. So its specifications have been mentioned: ease of use, it's easy to use, maintain and repair, and they can adjust and equip the sniper rifle with various sighting systems also. And its claimed accuracy is 3 shots within the circle, and being a semi-automatic sniper rifle that allows for quick follow-up shots also. It is a reliable gas-operated rifle with a short stroke gas piston system with a 2-position gas regulator. And so this is a small update, although the details are not so very important. But I guess, yeah, we need to be aware about such things as well. So again, cervical cancer. So why cervical cancer fight can't be put off any further? India in the top 5 affected Asian countries in incidence and mortality because of cervical cancers. So firstly, an important news for all the females that you need to get vaccinated, and vaccination that is available, and that is important specifically in the age gap of 10 to 25 years. So in incidence and mortality, India is in top 5 among 21 Asian countries in cervical cancers. So India is at 5th number. Top may we have Indonesia, Myanmar, Brunei. And incidence rate, this is for mortality rate per 1 lakh amongst the all age groups. So HPV vaccinations and screening, that is an important part. So you need to get vaccinated for the HPV. And apart from this, so this is an important thing, and you can just, take out data from this article. So here, basically, this pictograph is talking about the amendment bill of the Forest Conservation Act. So it was passed by Lok Sabha on 26th of July. So what are the highlights? What are the amendments that have been suggested in terms of the forest land, wildlife, infrastructure activities? So earlier it was called the Forest Conservation Act. Now it would be called as the Van Adhiniyam. So land has been divided into two classes. One is land declared or notified as a forest under the Indian Forest Act. And second category is that land which is not covered in the first category, but it is notified as a forest on or after 1980, 25th October 1980 in the government records. So what is allowed and what would be exempted? So it would be basically to encourage the private forest and agroforestry projects, eliminate the need for the forest clearance for the such projects. Private forests जो होंगे agroforestry projects, they're not to be considered as forests. Surveys and investigations of forests, they will not be considered non-forestry activity. And new zoos and safaris owned by the government, only they would be allowed on forest land. Strategic projects जो होंगे concerning the national security within 100 kilometers from international borders, they would also be allowed in the forest land. So यहाँ पे specification mentions है for the construction activities that would be allowed up to 0.1 hectares on the forest land alongside the railway lines, up to 10 hectares of the land which is proposed for security related infra, and up to 5 hectares of the forest land in the Naxal affected districts. Concerns, you can go through them. Changes क्या किए गए हैं? Insertion of a preamble to broaden the scope of this act. It would only apply to the land that was recorded at forest on or after 25th October 1980. So objective is to eliminate the ambiguities in this Forest Conservation Act and the interpretation of different provisions, achieve the goal of having 1/3 area of the country under forest cover, create nationally determined contribution targets of additional carbon sink. So that's there. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us in today's analysis session. I hope the topics that we took up, they are clear to you. And if you have any doubts, you can get back to us. You can comment and leave your feedback in the comment section. Do subscribe to the channel and also hit the like button for this video. Thank you so much.